The story that follows was buried for decades in a sealed intelligence annex, its pages warped by time, its photographs scrubbed of identifying marks. Yet its impact on the course of World War II is undeniable. It begins not with a weapon, but with the absence of one. An outline, a blueprint, a whisper passed between analysts in dimly lit rooms. What the Allies feared was not something deployed on the battlefield, but something the enemy was still drawing on paper. A superweapon capable of altering the trajectory of the entire war. And the only way to confirm the threat was to send a recon unit into a place no Allied soldier was meant to reach. Their objective: capture footage of a weapon that did not yet exist. The unit chosen for the mission had already earned a reputation for the impossible. They were specialists in infiltration photography, men trained to operate bulky 1940s film equipment in silence, under pressure, sometimes under fire. Their cameras were modified for low light, short bursts, and concealed operation. These were not frontline infantrymen. These were the eyes of the war. And on the morning they set out, even they did not fully understand the scale of what they were walking into. Intelligence intercepts had suggested the Axis powers were testing a long-range artillery system far beyond anything previously seen. Something with a barrel length in excess of 100 meters capable of reaching distant capitals from fortified bunkers. None of this could be verified. Rumors of electromagnetic enhancements, experimental propulsion, and underground assembly lines had been dismissed for months as enemy misdirection. Yet the pattern of resource shipments and intercepted engineering notes pointed to one conclusion. The weapon was real, and construction was underway in a restricted zone deep behind enemy lines. The recon team advanced by night carrying only what was essential: camera, film canisters, demolition charges for self-destruction of evidence, and forged documents that bought them mere minutes if discovered. As they approached the perimeter, the signs of a massive project became clear. High fences, overlapping security checkpoints, and armed patrols indicated a facility of unprecedented priority. No ordinary test ground received this level of protection. The soldiers moved with the practiced caution of men who understood a single misstep could end the mission and their lives. Inside the restricted sector, they found not a completed superweapon, but something more dangerous: the formative stages of a project still in evolution. Engineers worked through the night assembling prototype frames. The recon team captured footage of enormous steel supports, too large for any standard artillery system of the era. They filmed cranes maneuvering components that resembled the backbone of a monstrous gun. The shapes were unfamiliar, the geometry intimidating. Whatever this project was, it represented a leap beyond conventional weaponry. The deeper they moved, the more the truth took shape. The facility was divided into zones: design, testing, assembly, each guarded separately. In one storage yard lay rows of long-range artillery frames, their incomplete structures revealing a hybrid design. These were not simple cannons. They were tubes built for extreme pressure, reinforced with multi-layered steel and supported by rail systems that suggested modular extension. The size alone would have overshadowed anything fielded in the First World War, or the ongoing battles of the Second World War. If completed, such a weapon could strike cities hundreds of kilometers away, bypassing radar, bypassing anti-air defenses, bypassing every method the Allies had prepared for. The recon team filmed everything: wide shots, close-ups, frame angles for engineers back home to analyze. They kept the camera hidden beneath layers of cloth, using single-frame bursts to avoid detection. At one point, a patrol passed so close that one soldier could see the stitching on the guard's uniform. Such moments were catalogued by the camera only through the tremor in the operator's hand. In another sector, they found diagrams left unattended on drafting tables, blueprints of internal bore structures, energy management valves, and recoil countering mechanisms. These plans, though incomplete, revealed an innovative approach. A multi-chamber firing system designed to accelerate the projectile in stages, each chamber igniting sequentially. The effect, if working, would launch a shell at unprecedented velocity. The recon team filmed every sheet, every measurement, every handwritten note in the margin. Extracting the film would be more dangerous than acquiring it. The team retreated to the perimeter under the cover of darkness, hugging the shadows of warehouses and supply trucks. But the enemy sensed intrusion. As they made their way to the outer fence, searchlights swept across the yard, and distant shouts grew louder. The recon soldiers moved faster, abandoning paths, ducking through gaps, pushing their luck against the growing alert. Before dawn, they reached open terrain, but the enemy was behind them now, firing sporadically into the darkness. The recon soldiers sprinted. Bullets tore through the soil beside their boots. One of them carried the film canisters strapped beneath his jacket, protecting them with his body. They climbed into a transport truck concealed earlier among the trees, and without headlights, rolled down the slope toward safety. What they brought back would change Allied strategy entirely. When the recon unit crossed back into friendly territory, they handed over the film without ceremony. Exhaustion had overtaken any sense of victory. Within minutes, intelligence couriers rushed the canisters to a decoding room where technicians loaded the fragile 16mm strips into projectors. What flickered onto the screen stunned everyone present. The footage revealed not just components, but intent. Engineers in the restricted zone were constructing the foundational modules of a weapon whose scale had been theorized only in classified Allied research. The frames were unlike anything produced in World War II to that point, far larger than the V3 high-pressure pump artillery experiments already known to Allied analysts. Instead of relying purely on chemical charges, the diagrams hinted at sequential propulsion chambers, suggesting a hybrid design capable of pushing projectiles to ranges previously considered unattainable. Analysts froze frames, enlarging every detail. They measured angles, counted support ribs, mapped crane positions to infer overall scale. On several sheets of captured blueprints, scribbled notes in German referenced a Fernkanone, Phase D, a long-range gun in development before full prototype assembly. The recon footage showed that Phase D had progressed further than anyone suspected. The implications were immediate and immense. If operational, such a system could strike distant cities without aircraft, without rockets, and without warning. In a neighboring chamber, countermeasure specialists compared the prototype's potential firing arc to Allied defensive maps. Their conclusion was grim. The weapon's projected reach overlapped with industrial centers, ports, and troop staging grounds essential to sustaining the war effort. The race was no longer about preventing deployment, it was about beating the clock. Radar experts reviewed the footage as well, noting that the weapon's low firing profile would make detection nearly impossible. Existing early warning systems designed for aircraft and high-angle rockets would register nothing until the shell was already inbound. World War II had seen its share of experimental terror weapons, but this was something else. An artillery piece designed to operate in secrecy, far behind enemy lines and strike with the reach of a bomber. What changed everything, however, was not the structure of the gun itself, but the film of the engineers. Their movements, routines, and shift rotations revealed vulnerabilities. Analysts identified entrances, supply bottlenecks, and access roads not previously mapped. This intelligence became the foundation for what followed, a multi-phase operation to sabotage the weapon before construction could be completed. In a sealed planning room, strategists drafted a series of recommendations. Precision bombing was considered, rejected, reconsidered. Covert raids were proposed, modified, then filed as backups. What finally emerged was a hybrid plan. Targeted airstrikes timed with ground infiltration to destroy the key components identified in the Recon film. The footage provided exact coordinates for the assembly yard, the prototype supports, the testing rails, and the drafting halls where engineers refined the design. Each target represented months of work and irreplaceable expertise. Within days, bomber crews were briefed on a mission classified above all others. Their objective was simple on paper: erase the project. But the enemy had fortified the area heavily, and anti-aircraft batteries ringed the site. The bombers flew low, weaving through fire that left their fuselages torn and engines screaming. Several aircraft never returned. Those that did reported seeing massive explosions engulfing the prototype frames and engineering blocks, evidence that at least part of the operation had succeeded. Simultaneously, a ground unit moved in to confirm destruction and gather any remaining documents. They found the facility in chaos, fires burning uncontrollably, debris scattered for hundreds of meters. Hidden in a partially collapsed bunker, they recovered fragments of updated blueprints showing an even more advanced iteration of the weapon. These papers were rushed back to Allied laboratories, where engineers debated for weeks whether such an artillery system could have been completed had the facility survived. Historians now agree the Recon footage arrived at a critical moment in the Second World War. Had the weapon been completed, it would have posed an unprecedented threat to civilian and military infrastructure across entire regions. Its range would have outstripped conventional artillery by orders of magnitude. It would have allowed the enemy to strike from locations previously considered safe. And it would have forced the Allies into a defensive posture at a time when offensive momentum was crucial. The film canisters were stored afterward in a classified vault, along with the surviving fragments of blueprints and the intelligence summary report drafted in the days following the bombing. The report's conclusion was stark. Without the Recon unit's footage, the weapon would likely have reached operational testing by the end of the war's next phase. By capturing evidence before the first full prototype stood completed, the team bought the Allies months, possibly years, of strategic advantage. As the war progressed into its final brutal chapters, the threat of long-range artillery slowly faded from immediate concern. Rocket technology captured headlines. Jet aircraft changed the skies. The ground-shaking guns once envisioned in secret drafting rooms became relics of an abandoned path. Yet the story of the Recon unit survives as a reminder of how intelligence, not firepower, sometimes determines the fate of nations. The legacy of World War II is filled with machines of destruction, but also with the anonymous individuals who risked themselves to stop them before they were built. The men who carried their camera into the heart of the enemy's dream weapon did not know whether they would return. They only knew the footage had to. And in the end, those few reels of shaky black and white film may have prevented a weapon that could have reshaped the war in ways history was never forced to confront. Their mission remains one of the quiet triumphs hidden beneath the vast machinery of the Second World War. A moment when knowledge itself became a weapon, and film, not steel, saved lives.